I think it is very rare to find a candidate for the prosecutor's office who's willing to self-fund his entire campaign in order to avoid any conflicts of interest. That shows a man of true integrity, and I'm honored to have him as our Republican candidate for county prosecutor. And I know for a fact that Jakmides can try a case. I know for a fact that Jakmides is an honorable man. I know for a fact that he knows the law and that he will stand up for the citizens of Stark County and make Stark County safe. So I believe that Jakmides is the best candidate for Stark County prosecutor, and he's going to bring change to the prosecutor's office. Yeah.
Well, thank you all for coming. I appreciate it. And our guest of honor, Chris Powers, will make her cry in a little while. But I just want to tell you about myself. I'm from Canton. I went to Glenwood High School. My parents went to Lehman and McKinley High School. My grandparents also grew up here in Stark County and in Canton, Ohio. After Glenwood, I went to Mount Union, and I loved it at Mount Union. It wasn't the school it is today. When I was there, it was about 900 students, and all the buildings were old. And as you know, the University of Mount Union today is about 2,500 students, and all the buildings are new. And I attribute that to one of my best friends, Larry Karras. I got my first job out of college there as a probation officer, and I learned there to deal with people and to help people with drug problems, and particularly alcohol problems. That was kind of my boss's cause, and so we did a lot to help people with alcohol problems and working with Alcoholics Anonymous. During the time I was a probation officer, frankly, my boss insisted that I go to graduate school and get a master's degree in corrections. And this has also helped me understand the need for drug treatment and diversion and some of these social programs that can help people that are in trouble with the law to help them stay out of being in trouble with the law. As I worked as a probation officer there and got my master's degree, I then entered law school. So I ended up going to night school for 8 years after I got out of college, working and going to night school, but it kept me busy and kept me out of trouble. So when I got out of law school, I went to work for my first boss, Judge Thomas, who I named my first son, John Thomas, after. And we worked together for about a year, and then tragically he was killed in an automobile accident. So there I was 33, I had no money, I had no clients of my own. I had a great education, but, you know, as all the lawyers in the room know, a first-year lawyer really doesn't know much about anything. It doesn't really know how to practice law, and of course doesn't have their own clients. And of course, when you don't have clients, you don't have people walking through the door paying you to represent them so you can meet the bills. So that was a really tough time. That first year after he died, people were coming in, they wanted their money back from John, and John was gone. And I had to deal with that, but I got a lot of help from judges in Stark County and other lawyers in Stark County, some of whom didn't even know me. But they knew what had happened. And this is part of the reason why we're here to help Chris Powers, to show that lawyers will help. They'll help when they're asked. And I didn't even ask, and they helped me. But I have to admit that I found myself living in the back of a building in downtown Alliance, and well, any of you have been to wonderful, beautiful downtown Alliance, you know what I'm talking about. In the back of a building in a one-room apartment with no windows, and I thought, you know, here I am, I'm 33, I've got this great education, I've never been in trouble, I'm a lawyer, and I'm living in the back of a building in downtown Alliance with no money, and I'm in debt. Well, you know, I struggled and got my way out of that, and it was a long, hard slog, but I did it. And saw that the Stark County Clerk of Courts ran a survey of their cases, and they found that between 1993 and 2015, I was hired by more people in more cases in more courts than any other lawyer in Stark County. So I'm happy to say that I'm number one. But ladies and gentlemen, I'll tell you why I want this job, and it's not because I'm interested in being a politician. When I go to the prosecutor's office, I look and I see a big portrait of my opponent in that room. And I think those people think they work for him. Well, they don't. They work for the taxpayers of Stark County. And there won't be a picture of me on the wall in that office, if I'm lucky enough to pull this upset victory here. There will be a picture of Stark County and the taxpayers of Stark County, because that's who we work for. That's who pays our salary. We don't work for politicians. We don't work for a figurehead. We work for the people of Stark County that pay taxes and pay the salaries. And they have good jobs. So that's who our bosses are the taxpayers. And we are wasting tax money by the inefficient way that criminal cases are handled. I will tell you that direct indictment is a hard thing to understand. But what it essentially is, it's a process of streamlining cases and handling them more efficiently. Summit County, Cuyahoga County, Portage County, Carroll County, and Columbiana County, and Stark County all talked about starting this at the same time, about 2003. Here we are 13 years later, and Stark County still hasn't done what every other county around us has been doing for 10 years. They've saved millions of tax dollars streamlining cases and screening out cases. And we still don't do it. And there's newspaper articles going back to 2002 where John Ferrar's talking about doing it. Well, he's still talking about doing it 14 years later. It's a disgrace. The other thing that, of course, I think should irritate everybody is John Ferrar announced that he's going to retire at the end of by the end of the year. Well, we know he's not really going to retire. What he's going to do is start collecting his pension while he's working. He waited till after he thought nobody was going to enter into the race, and then he announced, I'm going to double dip. So he's going to give himself a $77,000 a year raise to do the same job he's doing now. And I would respectfully submit, not very well. Now, there's no question he is absolutely no comparison between me and John Ferrar in the courtroom. He's never tried a jury trial. I've tried 500, and I've tried him as a prosecutor. I've prosecuted people for arson, for drug cases, for sex crimes, for robberies. I've been there and prosecuted and won these cases. I've done every defense case you can name, from aggravated death penalty murder to speeding, and I've won those trials. I will take a caseload. I will actually work in the courtrooms and help these prosecutors get convictions, because believe me, I know how to do it. I know how to do it. And I know how to help them. And for a change, the police will actually see a county prosecutor in their police departments. And in their courtrooms. And these guys know me. And, you know, we've not always been in love on occasions because of cases that we have. But frankly, we can work together. And we know what the problem is. We know what the problem is in Stark County. It's heroin. It's the #1 law enforcement problem that we have. And when Mr. Ferraro and I had a debate, he conceded that I was certainly better qualified to deal with that than him. Well, I hope so. That isn't really saying much, but the fact is I am. I know the dope game. I know how the dealers work. I know what happens to people that get addicted to heroin. Frankly, there's a lot of ways that they can be helped, but I think we need to start the conversation with not, oh, poor you. We need to start the conversation as, where do you get your dope? Because I've found in my practice that if they tell you where they got the dope, they don't usually go back to that guy and buy again from him. You know, and don't tell me you don't know who it is. You absolutely know who it is. And I think that the person who is the county prosecutor has to take on the hardest job in law enforcement for a county prosecutor, and that's to try and defeat the heroin epidemic that struck us. And we have to get away from this idea there's something wrong with telling on people who sell heroin. And we have to make that a badge of honor to tell on somebody that's selling heroin. You know, because the life that they save might be one of their loved ones, but certainly they can save lives by telling on people. And ladies and gentlemen, I've been a lawyer for a long time. I have yet to have an informant retaliated against. That is an urban myth, that if you tell somehow snitches get stitches. That's a bunch of crap. That is. I've worked in the federal court system for a number of years on major drug cases, and everybody that pleads guilty in federal court agrees to cooperate with the government. Every single one of them do. That's part of their plea agreement. They don't get retaliated against. Heroin dealers stay in the shadows. They live in the sewers. They're not going to come out into the light of day. but they need to be found and drug out by their hair. And there's some cops in here that I can see that would be more than happy to do just that. Just give them the information to work with. So ladies and gentlemen, I intend to take that on. You won't have to pay me twice. You'll only have to pay me once. I will take a pay cut, and that's quite all right. It doesn't bother me a bit. As Jane said, you know, Donald Trump and I were the only two self-funded guys, and now it's down to me. But I think it's very important, you know, because we know that, you know, John Ferraro criticizes me for being a defense lawyer, but he takes money from defense attorneys. You know, he takes money from anybody, his employees, people who do business with the county. Yeah, it takes money from them. And you know, when somebody gives you money, they think they could probably call you up on the phone and ask you for a favor for maybe their nephew or their cousin or, hey, their cousin's kid or something like that. Well, that will not happen because I'm not going to take any money from anybody. And when I was at the AFL-CIO thing, these guys said, well, you know, maybe we could give you a donation. I don't want your money. I don't want any donations from anybody. I don't want somebody calling me up and telling me that some guy's got, their kid's gotten in trouble and what can I do to help them? Because really, very frankly, if they give money, you know, they want something in return, or certainly they expect to be able to call you on the phone. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you know, when I would tell you this also, you know, Donald Trump will close the southern border. And when I look at this, I think, how is heroin getting here? Well, it isn't coming from Indiana and Pennsylvania. It's coming from Mexico. And to me, to stop heroin, he's our best bet because he'll do something about that. And, you know, he's got the courage to do it. And he's right about that. That's where heroin and methamphetamine comes from. It's coming through the southern border. And, of course, there's cops in the room that know better than I do. And China is the country where fentanyl comes from. And I think our federal officials need to address that directly with the Chinese government. You know, they don't have a Fifth and a Fourth Amendment in China. So please don't tell me there's nothing you can do about it. Gucci bags don't kill 500 Ohioans a year. Fentanyl does. And that needs to be addressed. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I hope that, you know, instead of giving to my campaign, you will help me do one thing here tonight. And you have. And your generosity has been overwhelming. And we're going to make Chris cry. Because, ladies and gentlemen, we have literally tonight, the generosity of the people in this room has raised thousands of dollars to help Chris's little boy. And that's better than anything I asked Chris if it was okay. You know, I said, I don't want you to feel like I'm using your son in some kind of political. She said, no, Joe. She goes, we appreciate the help. So all of you have done something to help a little boy fight cancer and help his mom and his dad and his brother and his sister. And I want to thank you all for that. And ladies and gentlemen, if I win, I will wage war on heroin like it's never been waged before. And anybody that knows me knows I will do it. I'm not going to be in an office pushing paper around. I'll be at their house knocking on their front door and saying, hey, Joe Wilson just told the cops you sold him some heroin. What about that? What are they going to do? They're going to call the cops? Call them. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you. And as I said, nobody in that office will be working for a politician. Nobody in that office will be working for me. They will be working for the taxpayers of Stark County. That's who pays our salary if I win. Thank you.